Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Reviews, where today I'll be checking out a track from an act named Evil Borty titled Jeepers Creepers Thong in Your Mouth. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the track on YouTube. We're going to listen through this track from start to finish. I'm going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. Let's just wait for that exit full screen to go. Nice turntables in there with a bit of the vinyl kind of scratch to it. Oh, this has got some Rick and Morty references into it, as I understand it as well.
It's a world outside you can't tell. Dreams not for sale. Remember now. Rest in peace to Mercury. Farewell. Rest in peace to Mercury. Farewell.
It's an interesting cut. You know, you got all this sort of drum fills there, and the rest in peace to Mercury something or other. And we've got like sort of woodwind or sort of like synthy sort of sequences going on here with a grandiose kind of huh? Okay, we're switching it up again.
Another rubber floods, blood, snub, hug, thugs, club, dubbing grub hubs. My drugs fill a tub like a line full of cubs. Bite a pug, rugs, pull a mine out the mud, still fly.
I wasn't expecting this flow to come from this. This is my first time. This is my first impression, but I'm kind of digging it. It was an interesting intro to have here. I'm trying to sort of like ascertain the connection between them, but it's cool.
In the scud, bright rain to a stud, like lightning through a flood. Tightening my gloves, whitening from a dove, got him hiding above. You dying on love, what a scientist does.
It's quite busy. You got this sort of like slide guitar. It's kind of bow bow with this kind of groovish kind of sort of like 90s hip hop kind of rap beat.
He belong, be a stronger king than Kong, right or wrong like the bone. I'ma sing an evil song. Jeepers Creepers Thong in your mouth, longer than the south. Had a cotton route, I forgot about the rotten sauerkraut. Shower clout in the drought, grabbing trout out the snout. Flower sprouting out the spout like a pout.
Damn, man. Great rhyming here, great articulation here. I'm probably going to need to listen through this one more time to see if I can ascertain from the verse, because there's so much else to pay attention to at the same time. I do like that fuzzy kind of bass motif, though, how it loops around and kind of reintroduces everything else.
Assistance a menace, I piss on her in Memphis, melted her Olympus like I am Mr. Nimbus. Grim plus disgust, kiss Christ, cuts them blunts in the end months, slim white runs. It's my limb light once, I'm a dunce, so I punch or I punt. Any punk getting struck with a truck, pocket clock in my arugula. I'm rude to ya, removal of a booty, I put on out Jerusalem. Ya Peru approved, super numb, shooter who to run. Who the one using drums as a rule of thumb till the troopers come smooth.
Using drums as a rule of thumb till the troopers come. How much am I supposed to interpret that?
The song a tumor sprung from a human lung with my jeweler brung room and none. Get your pupils stung with aluminum till illusions come and they ruin fun.
Oh, okay, get your pupils stung with aluminum till you...
I know I cue a pun. I said lead getting drizzled in Central Sicily. Mentally, a missile whistle through the peninsula accidentally. They're saying you a gay boss who cause chaos. Get your race lost in the exhaust like I'm Adolf. Your girl gloss woman.
Oh shit. Like Adolf?
My gray sauce till the face cough. You graze a horse with amazing force. Hit the space ball. Yo, we all been fucked since Eve shared the apple. But they don't hear me like the P in pterodactyl.
We've been fucked since Eve ate the apple, but they don't hear me like the P in pterodactyl. How are we supposed to take that in part there? How are we supposed to take that in part there? It's clever. You know, I get the concept of being screwed since we all became sinners. But then are we sort of initiating the concept of the lyricist being the one who's responsible for maybe spreading a better way of thinking about life and our existences and stuff like that? How are we supposed to interpret this? I'm going to do something I don't do often. I'm going to listen through that verse again, that main sort of channel of the track. I'm going to speak through it. I'm going to try and you know, consume it. And then I'm going to conclude this track review. Like, I like the wordplay of like lightning through a flood and everything like that. And individually, these cuts work well. Like the tub full of drugs or something like that. The wubba lubba dub dub reference to Rick and Morty, of course, obviously makes sense.
From a dove, got him hiding above. You dying on love, what a scientist does. He belong, be a stronger king than Kong, right or wrong like the bomb.
And I also like the way that the vocals are panned on the sides as well. I think that's really neat. There's great attention to detail with the production side of things.
Jeepers Creepers Thong in your mouth, longer than the south. Had a cotton route. out. I forgot about the rotten sauerkraut. Shower clout in the drought. Grab a trout out the snout. Flower sprouting out the spout like a pout. When your sister's a menace, I piss on her in Memphis. Melted her.
When your sister's a menace, I piss on like... But what? Piss?
Olympus, like I am Mr. Nimbus. Grim plus discuss kiss.
Like Mr. Nimbus, I think, is another sort of like Rick and Morty reference.
Cuts them blunts in the in-month. Slim white run. If my limb light once, I'm a done. So I punch or I punt. Any punk getting struck with a truck.
Before I go to the conclusion, I just want to sort of like also give a shout out. In fact, actually, hang on. This is my conclusion of this track from, you know, Evil Borty, titled Jeepers Creepers Thong in Your Mouth. That's a hell of a ride, dude. I can see the screen, and I can see like the artwork there. I can sort of tell with the Evil Borty kind of vibe here what we're going for, and I think it's a really sort of unique take on it. I haven't heard music like this before. Traditionally, with a lot of rap and hip hop that I listen to, especially nowadays, people are sort of scared to have like 30 seconds without their voice coming in, especially in a 2 minute 19 track. But I kind of like the courage there to not really start the story necessarily until the latter half of it. Like, I like the start intro part there with the rest in peace to Mercury Farewell with like the child vocals and then the backgrounds and then the brass and the different sort of snare fills and stuff like that. It's great. But we move into this other section here where it gets a lot more real really quickly with the main sort of rapping vocals from Evil Borty. It's a fascinating sort of experience to have, really. What do I think this track is about? I think it's about incorporating sort of the Rick and Morty elements into like a freestyle or like a rap verse that Evil Borty was all about as a rapper and musician. And I think that, you know, images of like, again, like the drugs in the tub and like what lightning through like water, and especially that thing at the end about like Eve and the apple, but you know, like nobody hears in like the P and pterodactyl. I think basically this is about someone who is first of all trying to sort of explain who he is, his life, what value he has, how he doesn't have the patience for those slim white punks and everything like that, punting the punks and everything like that. Great pronunciation of those words, by the way. That came through very clearly. The syllables are succinct and pronounced really well. But there's also, I think, aside from that sort of like communication of their prowess as a musician, as a rapper, and their ideologies, there's also an acknowledgement when everything cuts out that people need to listen to him, but they don't. He's acknowledging how screwed we all are, except nobody will hear his solutions to it. I think that's the kind of vibe I get from this track. I could be wrong. The rapping is clear and succinct, and it's really smooth. You know, clearly we have someone who's experienced on the mic there. This isn't their first rodeo. The phrasing, the wordplay, the lyricism there, the confidence, the personality that shows through some of the vocal fresh bits, and the way that we sort of phrase things and put sort of backing or like double tracked emphases on certain lyrics or whatever on either side of the stereo field communicates that this is someone who's familiar with his art form and knows exactly how to get the results they need. Ultimately, I've got no doubts about them continuing to make great music within this matter, at least from like a lyrical or sort of vocal performance perspective. I'm really happy with it. The motif itself was fascinating, again, because we had these cuts from like the cartoon, the Rick and Morty cartoon. But we also had sort of traditional more sort of elements like little fuzzy bass parts and little slide guitars and snare drums and like snare fills. And there's just a little sort of a sizzle and vinyl crackle to it, especially at the beginning that's nice and warm and pleasant to listen to. When things get a little bit more sort of dark and serious in the latter half, it goes down to a minor sort of tone there, working with some semitonal shifts and maybe the Phrygian mode, with the overall sort of harmony and bass line. And I adore that, to be honest. I think it's kind of edgy sounding. It illustrates a tense sort of don't screw with me kind of vibe there, but also makes you want to hear more because it doesn't just loop in an ominous way. The slide guitars kind of sound trippy and add a sense of sort of philosophy to it, you know? It makes you sort of think about what's going on there because you're taken aback by it, even if it's sort of repeated. I'm sure there's some inside sort of things here, like the thing, rest in peace for Mercury and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's some inside stuff that I'm missing. When I get like the basic stuff like wubba lubba dub dub and stuff like that, that's fine. So I'm sure that fans of Rick and Morty as well as fans of hip hop and rap will be able to find stuff to appreciate with this track. The actual performance itself and the use of the different instruments and the transitions between the A and B section overall in this through composed track are dope. They're really strong. I'm kind of glad we had the two parts there. I guess that connected potentially through like the first and the second. Maybe the second is the rapper's sort of like response to the first part, sort of like contemplating or considering more on it. There's definitely been some thought going on in all different parts of the post-production recording and and performance process. I'm not sure how much of this has been sampled versus been recorded, but it sounds nice and clear and clean, and there's nice sort of living on the various elements of the mix. And the theme behind it is nice and fresh sounding as well. Like the coloration, the tone of it is very nice and fresh sounding, even with a little bit of sort of like harmonic complexity to it and a little bit of sort of emotional kind of angst. But yeah, that first part sounded really nice and warm and glowed there with those little sort of brass parts in the backing sort of male chorus vocals alongside the child ones. And yeah, I've got lots of love for it. It's one of the more unique songs I've heard in quite a while. So it's a positive thing when I say that. I'm not meaning that facetiously. At 2 minutes 20, it's nice and short, easy to digest and swallow. Definitely doesn't waste your time. There's no filler in it whatsoever. I'm hoping that Evil Borty got what they wanted to off of their chest in this situation, as it can be difficult to really go back in time to fix it after you've released it. It'll be interesting to see what they do as like a long form, like with an EP or an album or something like that. I suppose we'll just have to see if they continue to release more music. It'd also be interesting to see what they would do in a collaboration scenario. Like, how would you work with other people on this? Were there other people involved with this? I think the choice of instruments made sense for the two different sections, and ultimately I haven't really got a lot more to sort of say about it. We had those two different separate motifs there that illustrated different sort of emotional tones there. And I'm probably gonna need a bit of time to sort of really understand how they come together. Again, there may be inside stuff I'm missing, but outside of that, it's fine. It could simply just be what the rapper or the musician or whoever was responsible for this wanted to do, and that's also fine. The production, recording, mixing, and mastering was succinct and to the point. There was a nice clarity with the vocals as well as the other additional elements of the mix. Nice sort of glowing and leveling of the various elements in the arrangement. There was nice panning of the different sort of vocal parts occasionally, and the rest of the instruments in the mix were nice and wide. There was filtering and cueing of the various components of the accompaniment that made them so that there were no sort of resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. It was nice and loud without pumping. All in all, a very professional release. I've got no real complaints about it at all. It's just I feel like I'm missing some key information, but that's just simply a first impression thing. I'm sure there's replay value to this, because this is effectively my review of Jeepers Creepers Thong in Your Mouth by Evil Borty. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.